the hemlock trees lining the drive reaching for the sky. They were visible in the darkness, the light of the night detailing their fissures, almost too faint to see. The truck pulled onto the dirt road that led to the house that was less than a mile from the road. John and Linda came onto the gravel, past the red brick Stouts' home, which sat at the head of the drive, went down a ways, bearing left at the fork, and headed under the canopy of trees. The porch light they had left on came into view off and away, on the opposing hill where their home stood. The sky above contrasted sharply with the outline of the trees, dictating the path illuminated by the headlights. John turned them off before they reached the house. It is some jealousy. She looks over the hill and sees the work you continue to do, and then what you and Henry shared. It stirs some kind of dissatisfaction, and she wants change. Do you think she needs change? John asked. In some ways, badly. But she also needs to take it out somehow. She doesn't have Henry anymore. So I guess you're the next closest thing. She had a cigarette and took a pull. Why like that? I loved that tree, and Henry loved that tree, and it was never just hers. She needs a man, he said. She smiled, and she looked at him. John held his hand out for the smoke. She gave it to him. I really don't like it, she said. I hate going to court. I'm not looking forward to it at all, and I really wish we could just go over there and sit at the table, or she could come over and we could all sit down, and we could just talk out whatever is going on with her. Like old friends, right? That's what we are. And you, I mean, your family. She's holding on to a lot of old ways, he said. A lot has changed. The fighting is less, the discussion between the world leaders is greater, and to take a problem like this back to the remains of that system now is completely unreasonable. But we live in this country, and to live here is to be a part of an invisible mass that is semi-indifferent. It has to be to survive, and it consumes. Though things are changing, some things do not change if certain things remain the same. It is all she has, I guess. He smoked. I imagine how bad it will be for us if we don't go. Yeah, she said, and they both laughed. The consequences were frightening. He handed her back the smoke. They pulled up to the house. The parking lights revealed the edge of the deck, but the house was still concealed in darkness. They stopped, and John turned the vehicle off. They sat for a moment in the chirping nocturne, listening to its sound. She flicked the cherry off the end of her cigarette out of the window of the truck. Ready? He asked. Yup, she said. They got out of the truck and began to unload. They had a few paper bags filled. They stepped onto the porch together, he carrying more than she, and she unlocking the door for him. They stepped through the darkened doorway into their home. She turned on the light, and they moved into the kitchen. There was an upstairs, 2 bathrooms, one on each floor, and the spacious living area adjacent to the kitchen on the first floor. The walls were painted yellow, and the finish on the wood was cherry. The floors were all hardwood, and the bathrooms were tile and granite. It could be seen that the house had been crafted over many years. Here you go, Mom, he said, handing her the honey. Thanks, Dad, she replied, taking it from him and smiling. You bought milk? She asked. This time, he said. We normally get it from the co-op. I know. I like to buy local if we can. I know. Vote with your dollars, she said. I try, he said, and she scowled at him. Together they heard a noise from the upstairs of the house. A bump, and then more. They looked at each other. Is someone here? She asked. Not that I know, John said. They took stock of their home briefly. They had been distracted walking in. Talking and comfortable within the repetition of arrival, they had not seen the blood on the kitchen sink, or drops that led up the stairs. There was blood on the stairs. John, where's the gun? She whispered, frightened and soft. Quiet, he hushed. He walked over to the high shelf, behind the dried cereals, popping corn and brown basmati. Pulled out a compact, snub-nosed pistol. It shined silver and held good weight. They heard staggered steps upstairs. Hey, who's there? Show yourself. I'm armed, John shouted warnings. I'm coming down, came a reply. Please don't shoot. It was a man's voice, and it sounded weak. In the darkened stairway appeared the silhouette of a man of medium height and build. His face could not be seen, but he was holding his left arm, which hung limp across his body. He began to come down the stairs towards them. Slowly now, John said. Do not mess around. Please, the man whispered to himself. Sort of like, please. John, Linda put out her hand on her husband's arm. I think he's hurt. Not now, babe, he said. No, I think he is, she could see. He was hurt. He came to the bottom of the stairs and pivoted into the light. She gasped. His face was swollen and bruised on both sides. John and Linda looked at each other. Whoa, John said. Please, sir. Ma'am. He sat on the bottom step and his left knuckle touched the floor. Blood beaded off of it onto the floor. John lowered his gun. Are you okay, son? John asked. The man leaned his head onto the banister for a rest. I was looking for something, he swayed. Medical. I know this is a disturbance, but I think I'm hurt. Maybe bad. Maybe I have been shot. He leaned forward so they could see his left shoulder blade. It had been hit by a shotgun. Buckshot, maybe. It looked like ground meat. John and Linda looked at each other. John raised his eyebrows at her and then lowered them. Dear, would you boil some water, please? Son, come over here. I need to get a look at that. I don't know what we can do for you. Thank you, the man said as he lifted himself from the stoop onto the chair that John presented him. Once sat, he had his back to John. John set the pistol on the table within reach of both he and the man. The kitchen light was right behind John's head, and he could see perfectly the man's shoulder wound. He had been hit with a shotgun. Not buckshot. It was fractal, but something else. Tiny razor blades. Can you talk? Linda asked. Yes, he spoke more than a whisper, but his eyes were closed. He might have been sleeping. How did you get here? His eyes opened. He looked at them. He looked deep at them, using something. Do not ask, he said, and closed his eyes. We must know, John said, without quitting the examination. When they come, if you know, they will do terrible things to you, he said. John and Linda looked at each other. What do you mean, said John. He did not answer. John stopped examining him. What do you mean? Are we in danger? Yes and no. Is living here not living in danger and fear? But you adjust to make life safer and less. He stopped, opening his eyes again. And you recognize me. So you know something. He closed his eyes again. What they have told you, he trailed off. You know. John began examining him again. How is the water coming, hun? Almost ready. Grab me some tweezers or clamps or needle-nose pliers and a thick, clean rag. She went for them. During the moment she was out of earshot, John spoke. They paint you as a terrorist, John said. They call you a socialist, sometimes a communist, and an enemy of our freedom. Yes, he said. But we see through some of the veils placed over the eyes of the public by the media. We love John Lennon. We think differently of you. Or maybe don't know what to think of you. We try to live for the earth, which is what I know you promote. In a strange fashion, perhaps may I say, it is an honor to meet you. The man said nothing. Linda returned at a fast pace. Thank you, dear, John said. Sir, my name is John, and this is my wife, Linda. What may we call you by? Can, he whispered. My name is Jake Can. Good, Jake. I need to debride your wound, and then I will sew it, he stopped, or pat it, and tape it, or something. I'm not an expert, but I have done sutures before, on horses. He stopped and looked at his wife. Mom? Try to sit still, Mr. Can. Jake, I'm sorry, we don't have any numbing agents. She stopped. We have whiskey. 1 shot, please. She brought it to him. He took it fast, letting his left arm hang limp, and tilting his head back. He set the shot glass on the table. He sighed, his will having left him. We also have some pot. Would that be good? A little, yes. She brought him a small ceramic pipe that had been heavily used over many years, indicated by the smell, and a wrinkled plastic bag that had some green dust in the bottom. We only have a little, she said, but it is nice. She packed it for him and placed it in his good hand. She pulled over a chair and sat across from him. She could see her husband patting the wound over his shoulder. He was hunched. She could see the top of his forehead and head. Jake raised the pipe to his lips. She lit it for him. It went up fast, glowing orange and then turning white. He passed it to her, and she smoked the glowing ember. John, you'll have to do it for me. She brought it over and placed it in his mouth, and they pulled. It had gone out. She lit it for him. He pulled deep. Thank you, he said, smoke escaping his lips. The smoke was deep white. Okay, Jake, we are getting there. Try to relax. He He picked up the tweezers, holding the warm, folded rag in his left hand, and began patting away the blood, revealing the fragments of metal. "Sit tight, Jake," he stuck, grabbed the little razor, and pulled it out. Jake breathed out. "How was that?" John asked. "Fine," Jake said. He did another, and Linda packed the small bowl again. She let Jake smoke while John pulled the razor out of his back. They were making progress when more lights appeared coming in the drive. They had a ways to come, but it would not be long. Jake's eyes opened. "I must hide. Now. Right now." John looked at Linda. "Hun, fast. Dry towel. Then tidy this mess to look normal. Fast. Jake, come with me." She lifted a dry rag from her wicker napkin bin and handed it to John. He wrapped it lightly around Jake's left shoulder. John braced Jake's right shoulder and lifted him so that he could walk beside John as they moved. "Another towel, hun." "Bigger?" She handed him another towel, a blue one. He wrapped it around Jake's shoulder and the other towel tightly. He wrapped the gun off of the table and they moved away from the kitchen. Jake's left arm hung at his side. They moved back on the first floor, behind the stairs, to the rear entrance. "This how you got in here?" John said. "Yes," Jake said. "It was not locked." "Never is," John said. They moved out the rear around the house to an exterior cellar that sat behind the house. John lifted the swinging door, revealing the concrete steps leading into darkness. "Go," John said. Jake crawled in quickly, holding the wrapping. "Keep in here, in the darkness. There's a good bit of space down there. Feel for the wall and find a corner. Shouldn't be anything. Snakes. I don't know." "Thank you," Jake said. John went to close the cellar, then stopped. "Here," he said, and handed Jake the gun. Jake took it. "I do not condone killing," Jake said. "Neither do I," said John, and closed the hatch. Linda did a quick scan of the home. There was blood everywhere. She grabbed the tools and turned off the water, sticking the utensils in a paper bag and under the sink. She looked around. There was blood on the floor, there was blood on the stairs, there was blood on the sink. The lights were coming in the driveway. She saw them stop and the dust rise in front of their lights. She grabbed a kitchen knife, John's sharp one, and cut her hand open. She gasped at the explosion in her palm and the bright sensation that clouded her everything, sudden pain. There was a knock on the door. She heard the sliding door close and she saw John's silhouette. "Honey," she yelled so that everyone could hear, "there is someone at the door and I need another towel, quickly." John looked at her, confused momentarily, but did not speak. They ran to the linen closet, grabbed a towel and brought it to her at the sink. "Hold pressure," he said loudly. "God bless it," he said softly and kissed her cheek. "I'll get the door." He went to the door. "Who is it?" he called. "Officer Mark Richards, DIA. Please open the door, sir. It's a matter of national security. Be advised we are authorized for forcible entry." The man spoke like la-di-da and 1, 2, 3, like it did not matter. He was coming in. "Yes, sir," John said, and opened the door. Inside could be heard Linda breathing loudly and water running. "Good evening," John said. "Hello, my name is Mark Richards, DIA. The man flashed his badge in the darkness, and John saw nothing. "Has anything out of the ordinary taken place for you this evening?" "No, sir, nothing," John said, a wave of perspiration rushing over him. "Nothing." Mark Richards wore all black. His shoulders were as broad as the door, and his forehead was wide. His hair was semi-short and wavy. His eyes were not friendly. He looked in the door behind John. "What is your name, sir?" "John Casey." "Is there anyone else home with you?" "My wife." There was a pause. "And nothing strange happened for you or your wife tonight?" "No, nothing." "Are you a butcher, John?" Mark Richards asked. "Excuse me, sir?" "I smell fresh blood." "Why is that?" Mark Richards said. He pushed his way through the door, looking around and smelling. "My wife cut her hand upstairs a moment ago," John explained, following him in. "It bled out a little as she came down the stairs. It just happened moments ago. Please watch your step. You don't step in it. It might be wet." He led Mark Richards over to where his wife was washing. She could not be seen from the doorway.